Hello everybody, my name is Benton, and today I'm going to be doing a Draw My Life so that y'all can see how I grew up and how I became who I am today. So yeah, let's get started. The story begins on February 27th, 2001. That is when I was born, the day the world became awesome. 7:18 p.m. to be specific. And I was born into a family that consisted of my dad, my mom, and my 2.5-year-old brother, Ethan. And with the arrival of me, my family was complete. I was born 10 pounds, so I was the biggest baby in the hospital. They didn't even need a wristband to know that it was me. That's how big I was. So yeah, I started out with a bang, basically. So for the first part of my life, we lived in a house in Clayton, North Carolina. And I can't remember any of this because I was so little. We were a happy family. My dad had a good job. My mom was a stay-at-home mom watching me and Ethan. But at some point, after 9/11, my dad's company was firing 1/3 of their employees, and unfortunately, he was one of the 1/3. He had spent months looking for another job, but couldn't find one. Eventually, his stepdad, who lived in Florida, offered him a job at an airport where he worked at. So, we moved down to Florida, and that's where I grew up. My toddlerhood was great. Me and Ethan would stay home all day. My mom was still a stay-at-home mom, and she would play with us all day and also film it on cassette. But it was great. It's still fun to go back and watch those videos to this day. And we actually got really close to moving back to North Carolina because my dad really didn't want to live in Florida. And we had already had the whole van packed and everything, the entire house, and then he got offered a great job at a bank, so we decided we would stay. So fast forward a few more years, I am now 5 years old, and my mom finally decides she wants to rejoin the workforce. So I start preschool. My mom starts working at a place called the Art League. My dad is working at the bank, and this is kind of where we stay for a little bit. So this is when I start hanging out with my dad more as well. And he would take me and my brother Ethan fishing sometimes, and we would go on rides, but I really didn't like fishing. But one time I did catch a minnow when we were fishing, and I named him Swimmy, and I kept him in a tank, and he actually lived for about another 1 to 2 years, which was insane, much longer than we thought. But eventually he did die, which was very sad because he was like my first pet ever. But the next momentous occasion in my life is when I finally started kindergarten. And my teacher was Miss Matheny, who was the same teacher Ethan had when he was in kindergarten. And my mom also decided to start teaching that year as well. She taught kindergarten, although I didn't have her as a teacher. And then shortly after I started school, I started to make some friends. And my friend group in elementary school consisted of me, Tyler, who was my first friend I ever made, and also a girl named Casey. And the three of us would always play together on the playground, and Tyler would always come over and spend the night as well. Me and Tyler would do everything together. We would hang out at each other's houses, we would play together, play video games, go on trips. We were truly BFFs. And it was finally time for me to start second grade. And in second grade, my mom had told me that my teacher had a kid who was around my age, and she thinks we would get along, and his name was Mark. And his mom was my teacher, and eventually we met, and he would turn out to be one of my best friends for life. And we would also hang out all the time, do sleepovers, and all that stuff. And I'd also like to say that through most of my schooling, I like to keep myself pretty busy with my hobbies. I loved piano, so I took piano lessons. I also was on a soccer team. This is my attempt to draw a soccer ball. Listen, I'm trying. And I also was in chorus as well, because I love to sing. I was very musically inclined, is what my parents would say. And of course, I like to play video games as well, because, who doesn't? They're fun. And then, when I was in 4th grade, we decided that we were going to move to a new house. It was just down the street, however, literally on the same street. But we still wanted to get something a little bit bigger since me and Ethan were starting to grow up. And then this is when I started to get into some other hobbies as well, like theater. My first ever play was me playing the butler and the Aristocats in 4th grade. Over the summers, I'd keep myself pretty busy as well. The first 2 weeks of summer, we would always go up to North Carolina to visit my grandparents, and they absolutely loved seeing me and Ethan. And it was really nice to go up and be able to see them and spend time with the two of them. It's really some of the best memories I have. And now it's finally time for me to start middle school. Unfortunately, this is where I kind of lost touch with my elementary school friends, Tyler and Casey, but I did meet a new friend here and her name was Julie, and we would always hang out and chat before school started. I decided I wanted to join band as well, and I played percussion, and the best thing about band is that I already had friends in it. Mark was already in band, and so was Julie. Also, this is supposed to be a drum, just ignore it. We're gonna go with it, okay? I am not an artist. Let's just clarify that. And then in 7th grade, my mom finally decided that she wanted to teach 7th grade. She has been teaching 1st grade for years, and she wanted to try something new and move up and teach 7th grade, and that's where she's been since. And this was the time in my life when me and Mark started to hang out a lot. We would always do stuff together, and he was involved with the little theater, the local theater where I grew up, and he decided to have me join one day, and we did a play together. It was a Midsummer Night's Dream, and that's where I met Larissa, who would also grow to be one of my closest friends. Over the summer, I was busy as well. We did theater camp, and also my grandmother, on my dad's side, this is the one that doesn't live in North Carolina, would take us to Boca Grande, and I would learn to drive on a golf cart, and that's basically where I learned to drive. I would take Marg with me, and we would have a great time. The summer before my freshman year of high school, it was my first day of something called band camp, because my brother was in band in high school, and I wanted to be as well. He was going to be a senior, and I was going to be a freshman. So we went to band camp, and I played the bass drum in marching band. That's what that is, if you're wondering that's a drum. And the good thing is I already had friends in it. Mark was in band, and so was Julie. So it was great to get to hang out with all of them together before school started. And then, later on in band camp, I met someone else who'd be pretty important to me. Her name was Alexis, and it was love at first sight when I saw her. I was so infatuated, and then eventually we started dating. And yeah, that's how high school started for me. And I still kept myself busy in high school. I still did theater, I was still part of the band, and I also did piano as well. And then, like the blink of an eye, my freshman year was already over. And it was time for my brother to move to college, which was really sad for us, because now I wasn't going to see him as much. And this was also my first experience being an only child, which went pretty well. And being the only child really got me able to figure out who I was as a person. Unfortunately, I broke up with Alexis that year because I was still figuring out my sexuality. She actually understood though, and we were still friends, which was awesome. But I still didn't know who I was. And then it was finally time for me to start learning how to drive a real car. And the first car I ever had was actually the one my mom used to drive. It was a 2006 Nissan Pathfinder, and I loved that car. We had so many memories in it. And since I had the biggest car in my friend group, I would be the one that takes everyone places. It was great. We always got to hang out as long as we met our curfew. And now we start 11th grade, and this is when I decided that I didn't want to be in the band anymore. I wanted to be back in chorus. So I made the biggest decision of my life at the time, which was to leave band and join chorus. And the best part about chorus is that Larissa was in it. And we started hanging out all the time. She would always come over and spend the night, and we would go on so many trips and adventures together. And we really conquered high school together, it feels like. And when the summer came, this year was a little different. I took a trip to New York City, and I became a part of a group called the BAA. That's the Broadway Artist Alliance. I was so involved in theater that I was actually training in the studios that some Broadway actors train in. It was such an incredible experience to be a part of that. And then after that, it was time for 12th grade, graduation year. And of course, all my friends were there, me, Mark, and Larissa as well. They were my closest friends at the time. And the coolest thing is that each graduation, they give out a free car. For every A you get your name put into the drawing. And who else won it but my best friend Larissa? And just like that, it was already time for me to go to college. I decided to stay with my parents and go to college in my town to save some money. And it was around this time that I started going on dating apps, and I finally met someone named Noah, and he would turn out to be my first boyfriend ever. And me and Mark and Larissa as well were hanging out more than ever. Me and Mark would do all kinds of stuff together. We would go on drives together. We would also play video games together. And we had some classes together as well. It was great. And then it was time for me to finally get my first job. After applying to a few places, I finally got hired at Olive Garden as a host, and I loved it there. It was so fun to make new friends at a job, and I've never experienced that before. I had a lot going for me at the time. I had my boyfriend Noah, I had my car that I loved, I was in school. I also still had my close group of friends that I continuously hung out with, and also my job as well. Life seemed pretty good. But eventually my car broke down, and I had to get a new one. And luckily my dad helped me with the down payment, but he said I would do all the other payments myself. And that's the car I still drive to this day, and I absolutely love it. It was around this point in my life that someone at my job recommended I make YouTube videos. She thought I was so funny and she loved my car, she thought I should make a video. So I decided to go outside and film a video on my top 10 favorite things about my car. Eventually, I decided I didn't want to live with my parents forever. So I took that car of mine and I moved in with my brother, who lived in a bigger city. It was called Lakeland. And this was great. We truly had our own place, and it felt like I was independent for the first time in my whole life. We did so much together. We went off-roading, we went on so many adventures on the boat, and we also played a lot of video games together. It was so awesome. Unfortunately, shortly after, Noah decided that he was moving to Alabama, and he decided to break up with me, and this completely broke my heart. I was so sad. And shortly after that, my parents had decided to get a divorce. I knew it was coming, and it's best for the two of them. But it felt like a lot at that one point in my life, and I was really sad. I found myself being sadder than I had ever been. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't want to do school anymore. I didn't really hang out with my friends as much. I didn't have a boyfriend anymore. And I just didn't really have anyone, I feel like. I didn't really have much motivation for school after that. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I decided to leave school and start a full-time job at a dealership to get my mind off of things. And I loved it. Selling cars was so fun. On the weekends, I would divide my time between mom and dad. I would go watch YouTube videos with my dad and play on my Oculus with mom. And those are some great memories as well. About 6 months after working there, I decided I didn't really want to work at the dealership anymore. It felt like it wasn't for me. So I decided to take a trip all by myself, 800 miles to North Carolina to go see my grandparents. And it was great. I really realized how much fun I had there, and I thought, should I move to North Carolina? Should I just try to start over? So I had talked to my mom about it, and she actually wanted to move there as well. So that's what we did. We decided we were going to move to North Carolina together. And this is the biggest decision in my life thus far. And I still stay in contact with Mark and Larissa. And the only thing that was scary is that I didn't have any friends here. So I decided to go on Bumble, and I wanted to meet some new people. And eventually this profile came across my page, and his name was Caleb. So I decided to hang out with him one day. And we eventually fell in love. We started dating, and he introduced me to his whole family, and I love each and every one of them. So that's where I'm at now. This is my little family here in North Carolina. I live with my mom, Caleb, and his dog Jax, and it's great. Eventually we're gonna get a place of our own, but for right now, I'm okay where I'm at. And I love making these videos so that my family in Florida can see what I'm up to. So every single thing here in my life has led up to who I am today. The good, the bad, and the in-between. I have so many people that I care about, and so many things I want to do with my life, and so many things I've already done. And I can't wait to see what the next chapter is going to look like. So with that, I'm gonna go. I hope y'all enjoyed. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I just want to go ahead and say that going back and looking at my life really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I just want to thank every single person who I mentioned, anybody who had some kind of impact in my life. If you're watching this video, I just want you to know thank you so much. And thank you to the people who I haven't met that watch these videos. I really appreciate it. It's a great hobby of mine. I love doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it. So I just really want to thank you all for being a part of who I am. And with that, I'm going to go. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, like and subscribe. And yeah, peace out.